Expect the best used car deals guaranteed. Visit arnoldclark.com.
Welcome to Peter and Roughie's football show, sponsored by Arnold Clark. I'm Peter Martin, Alan Ruff, Tam Cowan and Darren Jackson with me here on this Tuesday. Great to have your company. You can follow us on Facebook, you can share the stream, and you can hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel to join the football family. Great to have you along with us. Lots to talk about. And of course, as things start to open up more and more, I don't know about you, Tam, but I sense an outside staff party looming ever closer.
This would be excellent. We just need to check, Peter, how many of the PLZ teams smoke, because the big danger with the beer gardens, of course, is that's where all the smokers go, and they have done since March of 26, 2006. I had the date tattooed on my back when the pubs banned smoking. But I'm not a Nazi. The smokers are perfectly entitled to indulge in their wee habit, but they all do it outside. So I might be waiting until May the 17th when you can then go indoors to a pub.
Yeah, indoors as well, Roughie. All those days, I mean, I think your last staff party was very, very close to the cut-off point, Roughie. But we made it.
Yeah, we did. It was a good night. But I think, and if we think back to that, you know, COVID probably started in that place that night. I think there must be about 400 people in there. There must have been about 400 people in there. And not a 2 metre distance, I may add. So, no, we were okay. We had the VIP seats. We were okay.
Absolutely. And the thing I remember about it was everybody was really enjoying themselves, and really, really early on, everybody had a few glasses of wine, and then we waved goodbye to Darren, who is a toucan Dan, and lasted, I think, an hour and a half of the party. Is that fair, Darren?
Peter, seeing that hour and a half, I enjoyed myself.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not sure if you bought a round, but it was still good anyway. Listen, we're down to the nitty gritty on the Super League. Everybody is steaming into it now. I mean, it's brought really the anger of the nation out, north and south of the border. Everybody's got their own thoughts on this breakaway Super League. 6 of England's clubs, the best of Italy, and of course Spain in there as well. Will we have another 3 and possibly another 5 who can qualify for it? Will it actually get off the ground? Gary McAllister played for Liverpool. Obviously, Liverpool are one of the 6 English clubs. He was talking today ahead of course, Rangers playing against St Johnstone. This is what he had to say about this breakaway.
I like the way teams have built. You know, Shankly took it from the Anfield was a mess, and the way that club has grown. But for me, there should always be a connect from the top to the manager to the players, but most importantly to the fans. And at this moment in time, there's a barrier there, and there's a disconnect. So, being a traditionalist, but I do like change if it's progressive and it works. But this is just a move too far for me. I don't see football. It's an elite sport with elite people in it, but it's a game of the fans. It's the fans' game.
Well, Roughie, I think the one key element of this is quite simply, nobody's against progress, as Gary rightly mentions there. We just want progress that allows everybody to get the chance to achieve something in it.
Yeah, I think the disappointing thing is that the people who are wanting to do it haven't come out and give their side of how it's going to work. You know, they've not helped themselves at all by, just throwing it out there. We've done it, and this is what we're going to do. I mean, it's hard to believe that a club like Man City have decided to enter this Super League, and Guardiola doesn't even know anything about it. You know, it's just ridiculous that they haven't consulted anybody, and more importantly, they haven't consulted the fans. They just went about it the complete and utter way, and we keep saying this word greed, and that's what it is. I mean, everybody knows it's all about money, and the reason they're doing it is because they've hawked themselves. You know, they've been giving players £300,000 a week, and that just can't go on and on and on. So they're now trying to recoup it by going into this Super League and trying to get their finances back in order.
Yeah, of course, Gary McAllister just mentioned the fact that UEFA taking this strong stance on it, offering bans to players potentially playing international football.
My support would be with the 14 other clubs in the Premier League, and I would also go with UEFA's stance as well. But then putting my ex-player hat on, it is pretty amazing that players haven't been consulted. And I've seen this morning then that UEFA are sort of indicating that if these teams do break away, that the players from those clubs won't be allowed to play international football, and that's the big one for me.
Yeah, Tam, what do you make of it all?
I had a kind of a wry grin on my face, Peter, right away. It's as if this week that greed and self-preservation was invented in football. As if we've never had it for years and years and years now. But this, of course, really, really takes a biscuit. And Roughie's spot on what he says. The managers at the clubs, the players at the clubs, and of course the supporters were not asked their opinion of this whatsoever. It was straight. A straight deal with the billionaire owners at all the clubs, and I think it will come back to bite them in the bum, because as we've learned over the past year, more than any other year in history, that it was absolutely right what Jock Stein said all those years ago, that there is no football without fans. We have learned that in the past year. Even if you look at the Old Firm game at the weekend, Peter, there was still that real lack in tempo in the game. There was some great moments in the game, some plenty of chances, incident, all the rest of it, a brilliant goal for Stephen Davis. But the minute it's played in front of an empty stadium, it's away down there. It was really, really flat. And if the fans, collectively do get the finger out and rally against this proposed tournament, I thought it was very, very refreshing that as much as Liverpool are part of it, it might have been well within the rights Liverpool fans to say, yeah, dancer, we're one of the biggies, we're away to play in this new competition. But right away, the Liverpool fans were out there putting banners up in protest outside the stadium. Absolutely magnificent. And it would appear that is the general mood with fans right throughout Europe. So I wonder if it's just a classic bully boy tactics for the clubs involved. And what will end up happening is some sort of compromise, and they'll get a wee bit more of their own way, perhaps, in the Champions League. And indeed, goes without saying, more money.
Yeah, that is exactly what I have been mentioning all this week, Tam. It's an absolute ruse to be welcomed back in to offer another slice of the pie to them, and they get exactly what they wanted in the first place. I genuinely hope that doesn't happen. If anything, I think UEFA should take a strong stance and then go back the way and try and offer other people the opportunity to get involved in the Champions League rather than playing all these qualifiers. They should, in effect, take something away from them and make them toe the party line. But I thought Gary Neville spoke very well last night on the fact that the six owners of the English clubs don't give a jot about public opinion. They're quite happy to sit in there and say, let's see if we can ride the storm out here. And I thought he spoke very eloquently about it all, and I think spoke for the collective. John Kennedy was speaking about it today, and he says, listen, it's all about the rich.
It's not for me. I think it's very much taken away from the tradition of football and what it's about, which is ultimately the support, the fans, the community. And it's just, for me, it's just a case of the rich trying to get richer. And it becomes about greed at that point and not about what football's all about. Football starts around the fans, around your city, around your community. And it's just stripping all that away to go to a place to look after, the richer. So
it's hard to believe, Darren, but last night's game, this was a very pertinent point on it. If they were to get away with it and still be allowed to play in their National League games, last night's game would have been irrelevant for Liverpool, whether they made the Champions League place or not.
Well, no, Peter. Klopp was interviewed before the game, and you felt for him because he's obviously come out and said he's opposed that he's against everything about it, and he's had to come out. He knows nothing about it. It's like Roughie said, Pep is on the television today and doesn't know. He wants the people to come out and actually tell us what's happening. And I see a quote, Peter, from Perez, the Real Madrid chairman, saying this isn't a league for the rich. It's a league to save football. And then it comes up that Real Madrid have lost 334 million during the pandemic. and the rest, because Real Madrid are the Galacticos. They need to buy the best players in the world, and they don't have the money now, Peter. So they have to find a way possible to try and generate this money to clear the debt, to buy the Galacticos, as I say. And one of the things I didn't like, well, there's a lot of things I didn't like in it, but one of them was Ed Woodward, and it was the chairman or the chief exec from Juventus who have resigned, that they were partial to every conversation with UEFA. They know what's going on, so they've gone against of it. They have all the information that they can take to their party and their group and say, well, this is what UEFA are looking to do. And he came out and obviously called them snakes and liars. And it's going to become horrible, but I think the fans will play a huge part in this, Peter. And there's one thing, Gary Neville will wake up this morning, I think, a legend with the Liverpool fans today, because you were right, he was brilliant last night, and he annihilated his own club that you obviously know he loves. So did Jamie Carragher annihilate his club as well. But Neville, I thought, was fantastic the way he spoke about it.
Yeah, I think they'll think he's a legend maybe for half the day.
Yes,
then they might go back to
that's it for today.
They might go back to the normal tribalism. Ian John Miller, who is a regular on our Facebook, says a boycott will not work. The fan base they are looking to use to get the financial support is in the USA and the Far East. Yeah, I mean, that's a good point, Ian. We're all aware that they're trying to build this as a franchise where basically there's no meritocracy. It's just a case of there's no relegation. They just suck up all the money, have their cake and eat it, and also are able to play in national leagues and get richer again. And of course, John Donald's just mentioned Kerry Packer's circus comes to mind as well. Very much like that, and I think that caused all sorts of consternation way back in the 70s as well. I remember exactly what you're talking about there, John. Of course, John Kennedy did mention now is the time for solidarity.
Yeah, I think so, because if you have a certain number who are doing it out of maybe greed or for their own good, then if that affects across the board football, then everyone has to come together and do the right thing for football, because ultimately, you know, we need each other to survive. That's the reality. We need the competition, we need the rivalries to make it exciting, to make it the product that it is, which then brings in the revenue and allows us to continually evolve and become better across the board. You know, and it supports our leagues, it supports our national teams, everything else with it.
Tam, there is one little element of it that I think there is a certain element of hypocrisy on this. Everybody's all for the stronger teams or the richer teams will be able to buy the better players and the bigger fan base. We all get that, and you know, we all have to live by that code. I mean, we're living in a country where only two teams have won the league since 1985. Aberdeen, I think, the last team to win the league out with the old firm. You know, but in the situation that we have in the structure of UEFA, they bowed to the bullies the last time, and suddenly we had 5 big countries with 4 places in the Champions League. All the other countries were forgotten about. There was no chance of them getting into the Champions League automatically if they won their respective leagues. So, you know, UEFA don't exactly come out of this, you know, all shining because they've bowed to them before.
Yeah, the hypocrisy has been there. The minute you heard MD for UEFA speaking on this, Peter. And if I was one of the breakaway clubs, though, Peter, I wouldn't be so confident that the subscriptions for this, that the money for this is simply just very easily going to come from America and from the Far East and all the rest of it. Because people, football fans in the USA and in Asia, they haven't exactly been banned or been unable up to now to watch the Champions League. They've already seen all these teams in action, and you can watch them kind of week after week after week, midweek after midweek. And, you know, the general consensus, let's be brutally honest, Peter, I know guys like yourself are always glued to it, but the general consensus, you know, recently has been that the Champions League can be a bit so what, the kind of the same teams playing each other, it seems, year after year after year. And that is certainly going to be the case when they get into this kind of cartel. It will definitely be the same teams on the telly playing each other week after week after week. And I'm not convinced in that front that fans, even the most ardent football fan, the absolute anoraks who watch 3 games a day, I'm not that sure that they would buy into this. So, maybe it is time to call their bluff. That would be fantastic. And I agree with other folk that have spoken this week about saying, we'll kick them out of their league right away and see how they get on after that. It needs tough action. But as I say, Peter, I think it is just going to be a compromise here.
Yeah. If it was me, Roughie, I mean, the ideal thing for me in this whole scenario would be if you are the champion of your respective country, you're in. Then you reduce the other big countries getting the 4 that they've normally got. This is the way I would play it. If you're a champion, you're automatically in the group stages. Then I would get to a situation where suddenly out of the group stages, I would then make it like knockout, like the old European Cup, based on the fact that if your business model is that good, then your team is going to have to go out over 2 legs and try and win through to the next round. You could have excitement like you've never witnessed before, Roughie, in the European Cup again, if it was suddenly a situation where Arsenal had the chance to either get to the next round or get bumped out and don't get a parachute into the Europa League. That was another nonsense that they come up with to protect everybody else who wanted still to have money. So if you're bumped out of the European Cup, you're out of it. That's what I would love to see, Roughie.
Yeah, I don't agree with you dropping into Europa. If you're not good enough for that, why should you go in and spoil the chance of the teams who have been in the Europa right from all the qualifying stages? So that's wrong as well. I mean, there's lots of things that UEFA have done. I hate when you get to, I think, is the last 16 and the draw comes round and you cannot be drawn against anybody from your own country and blah, 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 all that stuff. I mean, that should be out the window as well. And even when you do like the World Cup draw, I mean, it is farcical as well. You can't get somebody with pot F or pot G or whatever. I mean, there's a lot of things need to be seriously looked at and make it a level playing field for everybody.
Yeah, the ideal scenario for the Champions League, Tam, would basically just all the balls in 2 pots, get Rod Stewart there, get him absolutely hammered, and then he just fires every ball out there and there's mayhem.
Absolutely. That would be terrific. That's what we're hoping. But you do need, as Gary McAllister says, you need it from top to bottom. You need the chance that clubs can dream, that fans can dream. I mean, Peter, I still pinch myself at the thought of Motherwell being in a Champions League qualifier back in the day. What was it now? 8-9 years ago now when we played Panathinaikos. That was a Champions League qualifier. We never got any further than that. But we could at least dream of some fluke results and getting through into the group stages or something. But, when you close that off, it is just absolutely ridiculous. But it's money, 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 Peter. And you only need to look a couple of weeks ago to know that the pound note is king, because Chelsea played Porto in that 2-leg affair, but both legs, I believe, were played in Seville. Now, you'd think at a time due to COVID, when we're being told about not to make unnecessary journeys and take all the usual COVID, all the restrictions that are in place with COVID, you would imagine that they could just, if they had any sense, the Chelsea Porto game would just have been played over 1 leg in Porto, in Seville. But of course, they still had to play 2 legs because you've got advertising, you've got TV, etc., etc. It's just all about money. And I think now is the time with this farce to take a stand.
Yeah, I think you're right there. I would have liked just 1 game on that. It's a good point you make there, Tam. As far as the EPL is concerned, slowly but surely the Prime Minister's involved. Everybody's talking at this moment. This is what they had to say on it regarding the ongoing situation. The Premier League condemns any proposal that attacks the principle of open competition and sporting merit, which are at the heart of the domestic and European football pyramid. Fans of any club in England and across Europe can currently dream that their team may climb to the top and play against the best. We believe that the concept of a European Super League would destroy this dream. A European Super League will undermine the appeal of the whole game and have a deeply damaging impact on the immediate and future prospects of the Premier League and its clubs and all those who rely on our funding to prosper. We will work with fans, the FA, the EFL, PFA and LMA to defend the integrity and future prospects of English football teams in the best interests of the game. So that's what they had to say. Of course, UEFA have been right on this, and they really are loading the guns. This is what they had to say on the whole shebang. Football does not belong to anyone, or rather it belongs to everyone, because football is part of our heritage. Respect for history, respect for tradition, respect for others. This means something. Those clubs who think they are big and untouchable today should remember where they came from, and they should realise that if they are European giants today, it is partly thanks to UEFA. To the English clubs, come to your senses, not out of love for football. I don't imagine you have much of that, but out of respect for the people who bleed for the team, out of respect for the home of football. UEFA competitions needs Atalanta, Celtic, Rangers, Dynamo Zagreb and Galatasaray. People need to know everyone has a chance. We need to keep the dream alive. Yes, and at that point, I really wish they would, Darren, keep the dream alive and give everybody the chance to actually go and earn more money. Can you imagine Galatasaray having 30 million and then managing to win a shock home and away tie, and then suddenly they're into 40 million? Suddenly they could become a force.
Yeah, Peter, I'm 100% with you there about just making it home and away rather than leagues. I think it's the cup competitions are exciting because the managers will go in and say, look, everyone's looking for an upset. We're not wanting it to be us tonight. And people thrive on upsets, and they thrive on the little clubs getting there. But the big clubs want to achieve, and the big clubs want to keep winning trophies. So I'm 100% with you there, Peter. And it is. It's just it's becoming horrible. And watching the television today, they're talking about the government are really going to flex their muscle on this. And I hope they do, and I hope they can stop it in their tracks.
Well, I'll tell you one thing I felt sorry for was Jurgen Klopp last night. He was cornered into it. He'd said that he wasn't in favour of a Super League in 2019, and he was under the microscope last night again.
It has nothing to do with it, and I have not really anything to do with it, but people treat us like that. The Leeds supporters came here today before the game, were shouting at us. In the city, when we had a walk this afternoon, people were shouting at us. We have nothing to do with it. So we are employees of the club.
I feel sorry for the players and the manager, Tam, because I don't believe for a minute that the John Hendry of Liverpool would have kept anybody in the loop.
No, absolutely. And, Jurgen Klopp saying him and the players were getting shouted at in the street. The reason that they can't do it with the owners at these clubs is that probably nobody knows where they are. In Liverpool's case, I can guarantee they won't live in Liverpool. When you look at the owners of all these clubs, none of them seem to live in the UK even. So, they would obviously be the focal point then, the players and the manager. But I would imagine that the fans would just really try to get their message over and hope that, whether it was Jurgen Klopp himself could convey their message to the guys kind of running the club. But it is so unfair, and it really hit home for me, Peter, when, we're reading over the last 48 hours at how, Scotland, if UEFA take a hard line with us, Scotland could be without Tierney, Robertson, McTominay in the finals. I mean, that first and foremost, just really harsh, really unfair on the players who clearly have had nothing to do with this decision making. So, yeah, you can tell it's causing so much bother already, so much ill feeling at all levels, whether it is supporters up to the players, up to the managers of clubs. And again, we can only hope and pray that a few heads are knocked together and common sense prevails.
Yeah, absolutely. Last word on this. Florentino Perez, he's got a long, there's a long statement, Roughie, and I'm not going to read it all out. Basically, he said, this is to save football, which was just a load of nonsense. And I don't want to read it all out because it'll bore the back end off us all. But the only reason that they want to break away is to get, 350 million right away and then move on to their own little show, which will be like the San Francisco 49ers playing against the New England Patriots.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's an American idea. I think they do it in the basketball as well, and the American football. And it's the same with the financial over there. Most of the clubs all get the same kind of money. It's hard to get your head around. But you're right, anybody with any common sense, it's all about money. They've got themselves so deep that they need to get large amounts of money, and the format of it might be great, seeing Barcelona playing Real Madrid, blah blah blah. But after a while, although they've got tremendous players on view and everything, I think even the players would get fed up with it.
Yeah, absolutely. Apologies to some people. Sometimes Facebook has got an algorithm that would take a Philadelphia lawyer or members of a breakaway Super League to work out what's happening. I know a lot of people have been able to get on, but some people finding it a little bit difficult because the notification didn't come up as quickly as it should have. But hopefully you're enjoying it on YouTube and on Facebook and Twitter as well. We've given it our great gusto. We're all against it. What's the outcome? I think Tam and I are in agreement with Darren and Roughie on the basis that with governments getting involved, I think the last word on this, with governments getting involved and with everybody cranking up the pressure from fan groups, etc., I think they'll be given basically one last chance of an olive branch, and then they'll come in and try and negotiate more money for themselves, which I think would be the worst situation you could possibly hope for. That's the worst outcome for me. I think you've got to bring them back into the fold. If they agree to that, then take the biggest baseball bat you can get right over their head and say, by the way, here are the new rules. Here are the things we're taking back. Like it or lump it, the lot of you. And if they don't agree to that, then let them go and play in their league. I would say one thing, just one little last thing that I think is going to become prominent. I saw it on social media today, and it was a number of executives from 10 years ago talking about how football was going to change. I think in the next 10 years, Tam, it will change dramatically, because I don't even think terrestrial television or will have the power that it once had. I think everybody will have the option to basically buy a game for a fiver.
Yeah, the bottom line is, Peter, for athletic fans can sit in their houses just now and watch their games on their iPads, on their tablets, on their phones. So, you wonder if over the next few years that the clubs are going to cut the broadcasters out of the package and go straight to the punter and charge them at source. But it's just a tawdry business, Peter, and I've never felt... I actually feel quite proud this week that Motherwell refused to get involved in this Super League and just took a backward step. I feel really proud.
Yeah, absolutely. Although still waiting on the press release from Hearts and Partick Thistle to say they are off, because they're quite happy to play each other 15 times in the one season. They've already done 13 friendlies, so this will not make any difference to them. Stuart Ramsey says, I'm on Facebook, Peter. I only go on the Facebook aspect of the show to interact, but I watch you guys on my big telly on YouTube, which is great for Stuart. Gets to see everything. You can see the backdrop, and you can see what annoys you. If you're on YouTube, it's great, because all you need to do is on your television, go to the apps, hit YouTube, hit PLZ Soccer, and you'll see us in sparkling vision on your telly. And you can also, at that point, once you see us on your telly, get miffed at Roughie's wonky photographs, Darren's 1970s 3-channel telly, and of course Tam's perpetual pictures on Motherwell winning the Scottish Cup in 1991. Although if the breakaway boys get their way, Motherwell won't get the chance to go on and win the Champions League. Darren, I was waiting for it. Jose Mourinho, the bookies, 13-1 to get the Celtic job. Incredible. I thought it wasn't going to happen, but they'll always take a bet on the ridiculous.
Well, you never know, Peter. Jose doesn't like being off work. But no. You knew it was going to come. Even a shock yesterday that there probably wasn't the publicity that maybe Jose was looking for, that he was going to get getting sacked after all this happening and all that. So, but I don't think he'll be out of a job that long. But I don't think it'll be in London.
No, I think his time in English football actually is up. I think he'll probably take a job away from the Premier League in England. I think a lot of people have been just maybe looking and thinking he's not as special as he once was. I may be wrong. Roughie, I looked at the pictures yesterday of Dominic Mackay entering Celtic Park, and I just had this feeling that he was going to sit down with Peter Lawwell and he'll get his notebook out. And he went, you did what? You did that as well? What? I've got to do this? This is incredible. I mean, I'd love to have been a fly in the wall when he looked over the carnage that is being handed over to him.
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely amazing. If he'd been in there in the last 9 years, he would have been enjoying himself thoroughly. But this year has been an absolute disaster. And then Peter has left him with an awful lot of things to do. But there's supposed to be, this boy's supposed to be know his whereabouts, and he doesn't suffer fools gladly, and he makes big decisions. So he's got a lot of big decisions to make. And it'd be interesting to see if you could get a wee look at that things to do book. Because I'm sure everybody would love to know what's on it.
Yeah, absolutely. I just out of curiosity, do you do this, Tam? I wonder. I know you're meticulous on looking for little bits of script, especially for your radio show. Do you write down every day a list of things to do?
Well, what I kind of do, I can reach out for it just now, Peter. I've got see this. I hope you can see that, right?
Yes,
Looks
yes.
like small, really. Well, I've got basically sheets, A4 sheets like that, since 1990, 91 when I started out as a columnist for the Evening Times. I basically have an abridged version of the week's news at the front end of the papers, the back end of the papers, which is kept every day. So, you know, if we could do it as a special programme one day, Peter, you could say to me, Tam, what was the big football story on October the 8th, 2002? And I'd be able to reach into my notes and tell you. Fail to prepare to fail, as they say.
Yeah, I mean, do you keep the notes that you've put together?
Yeah, it's a funny thing, it's a wee bit of OCD, you're almost terrified to throw them out. I mean, I've got bundles of them all in about me in my office, all kept in files and everything. I'll probably never, ever use them again, but you certainly keep them within touching distance. Like, I mean, when I finish here, I'll go and finish off the column that I've got to write for the Daily Record on Thursday, and when I get to the end of the week with the radio and stuff, then the notes of the week, they'll be within touching distance for that period of time. Then I'll go and file them, and that's it. But it's just always a way I've worked. I can't, I would love to think that you could just sit and do a show, be it the radio, the telly. I'd love to think that you could sit down and write a column without doing all that prep, but you can't. It's impossible.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, I do obviously prepare the whole show, but I do have a list of things to do, as Roughie knows, and I tick them off when I get them all done. Although I'm not quite, I don't think I'm as, OCD as yourself there. And of course, quite a lot of people will now think to themselves that after today's show, Tam will go down into the basement and look at so many of the skins from various people from Silence of the Lambs. If you watch the movie, you'll know exactly what I'm on about.
We know that Roughie, of course, has got a list of things to do, but it's mainly photographs.
The only list. The only list I have in the morning is what I'm going to get for the messages for the tea at night.
Yeah,
that's my list.
Absolutely. Yeah, funny that. Stephen Caw, I like Stephen Caw's way of thinking. Stephen Cross says, I heard Jose Mourinho likes square sausage, so you never know. Square sausage is absolutely magnificent. You can't beat it. That's why so many people come to this country. Listen, good games coming up. We're running out of games now. We're almost getting to the nitty-gritty on it all. Tam, what about Hamilton against Motherwell? Will you watch that? Will you get access to it?
Already, yeah, with the season ticket, I could get it up here on the screen that I'm looking into just now, Peter. In fact, I might need to do that because I've got used to watching the games in at the BBC Saturday and Sunday when we finish our shows. But We're not on air tomorrow night, of course, so I might very well do that. Hoping and praying, if I'm brutally honest, Peter, just simply that Motherwell don't pick up any injuries or whatever ahead of the big cup quarter final at Easter Road at the weekend, because we're not going to be in danger now at the bottom end of the league. So from Motherwell's perspective, this league tie sounds ridiculous to say it when it is a local derby, but it is basically meaningless for us. And I wonder then, even with Motherwell having one eye on that cup quarter final, I wonder if Hamilton will get a better chance at picking up some points and trying to get themselves a wee bit out of bother. But so yeah, it's not exactly the fixture of the week for the Motherwell fans, shall we say, Peter? And I'm just really hoping, because we've already got a lot of injuries at the club, just hoping we don't pick up any others before the Hibs game.
My God almighty, Roughie, he's already talking like a Super League club, isn't he? Unbelievable. Resting players for this one because he wants to concentrate on the big one. He's unbelievable. I thought I was listening to Florentino Perez there. Did you, Roughie?
Yeah. He's only saying that because Hamilton have humped him the last 3 times they've played them.
I'll tell you, Hamilton have had a great record against Motherwell in recent times. Nothing surprises me about that fixture. But Peter, in my heart of hearts, of course, we all love a local derby. I've told you in this show before that for the Motherwell fans, they still kind of historically always looked at Hendry as being the biggie, but seems that's some way off us getting that fixture back. I always want Hamilton then to stay up. I wish them well. Not to the point of beating my own team, of course, even though it is kind of meaningless for us. But yeah, I'm quietly cheering for the Ackies to stay up.
Yeah, Darren, do you see Motherwell with the potential to take the scalp of Hibs, who are clearly one of the teams being quoted as the favourites to get into the Scottish Cup final, along with obviously Rangers now since they defeated Celtic?
Yeah, that'll be a good game, Peter. I'm actually going to Easter Road tomorrow night, and I think Jack Ross will probably change the team as well because of the prospect of the big game on Saturday. So they've put themselves. Listen, Hibs will be very disappointed in the last 2 semi-finals, Peter, and the players and the manager want to rectify that. So, but Motherwell will be a hard game. I think it's going back to Tam's game. I think Brian Rice could be saying to his players, I know sometimes now it's a non-contact sport, but get right in their face. They've got a big quarter-final on Saturday. They would maybe want to look after themselves. So get right in their face right from the start. So I can see Hamilton getting something out of that, Peter.
Yeah, that's Darren's speak for let's fly in with a few boots and see if they're up for it. It's as simple as that. Roughie, we're getting close to the point now where Rangers could go through the entire domestic season in the league unbeaten. Can they do it? Is it St Johnstone that's going to scupper them or derail them?
No, I can't see that, particularly when it's at Ibrox. I think Rangers' form at home, the goals conceded column is really, really impressive. It would have to be an away game for me, and they'd have to have another bizarre off night, as they had at St Mirren. There'll be other teams will fancy it. Aberdeen might fancy it. Hibs will fancy it. But I can't see any of the others. I don't think they've got the ammunition, to take on Rangers, particularly at home.
Yeah, I must admit, I wonder, Tam, about this Aberdeen Celtic game on Wednesday night, because strangely enough, Scott Brown will be there. It's one of his last games in a Celtic jersey. Does he go for one last noise up before he joins his new teammates?
I think noise up, but I think noise up might be a bit strong. But you know what? It's a tidy wee fixture for Stephen Glass, because ordinarily, the new manager wants to come in and get the bounce. There's a lot of folks saying that it was all down to luck beating Livingston on penalties. But ultimately, and imagine just how bad it would have been the flip side if Livy had won the spot kicks. Suddenly, it looked a decent result for Stephen Glass on his debut. And, and he could start in post-match saying, oh, yeah, we came back twice for when we were behind, and, and it galvanised the players and they showed a great deal of spirit, blah, blah, blah. The flip side of that would have been awful for Stephen Glass just coming in. And then for having Celtic up next, Celtic, I'm guessing, after the cup exit to Rangers, and in fact that's their season finished, and they're going to be trophyless for the first time in years and years. I'm guessing they might be a bit deflated, and Stephen Glass, he might just not have the worst chance of getting a victory against Celtic, and for Aberdeen, those particular victories have been few and far between. So I think he'll get into it quite confident, Peter.
Yeah, I think you make a good point, Tam. I mean, flat. I can't really look for any incentive other than pride for Celtic players, and it's been in short supply, Roughie, to be perfectly honest with you. This is a real chance for Aberdeen just to really get a couple of goals and get a win against Celtic, because it's meaningless. Not for Aberdeen.
But if you're John Kent, for Aberdeen. But if you're John Kennedy, you're going to look about that dressing room and say, right, who are the ones that really want to be here next year? Who are the ones that really want to impress and try and get another contract? And that's the team I'd be putting out. He's working with them, Monday to Friday, so he'll know the ones that I'm talking about. I'm not witnessing, their body language or anything until I get. Sorry.
What does that matter? Somebody comes out and says, "Oh, I really want to play for it. I'm going to play in this game and give it my all in the Aberdeen game."
No, you should be giving your all in every game. I'm just saying this game you're trying to make a point of it. This is the time when Aberdeen have got a chance to take them because they're so flat. I just think it's a time for guys who want to really, really get a contract to go out and show them what he can do. Well, they should have been doing it all year anyway, but this is another game where you've got to identify guys who are going to dig in for you, because Aberdeen will make it hard for them.
Yeah, I think the horse is bolted on that, Roughie. Hugh Scott says, Peter, the only thing Celtic want now is to try and beat Rangers in their last Old Firm game. Hugh, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, if there's anything to be gained by it whatsoever, then you're probably right, Hugh, but whether they're capable of doing that, I have my doubts. Killie against Dundee United, Ross County against St Mirren, and boy, Darren, the Ross County need a win.
Yeah, it's a hard place to go up. Yogi will have them obviously wound up. But Jim's had a good year. Obviously, they'll be really gutted they didn't make the top six. But he'll want to be finishing as best as he can. And his recruitment's been great and trying to attract probably better players for next season, Peter. And being higher up the league, get more money. So that will go onto Jim, possibly onto Jim's budget. So, listen, we're all pros, Peter, that you want to, every single game you go out and you want to do your best. There's no game that I played in that I just thought it was kind of meaningless. I'm not really too fussed about this. I think every player in the division will go out and give their all and hopefully get a result. But Yogi will be hoping that the home advantage will play a big part in this.
Yeah, I think you speak for yourself on that, Darren, to be perfectly honest with you. I don't think every player has that same attitude as you do.
Peter, you listen, you could be right, but I can only speak how I feel when I went on the pitch, and I can't get in my head that a boy would go out and just say, well, I'm not really too fussed. And you see some people come across different on the pitch, Peter, that they don't look as though they're bothered, but probably inside. And I'm not saying everyone. I can't say everyone because I can't speak for other people. But I just know myself, and I know the people that nearly all the people that I played with had that desire to win every game.
Yeah, absolutely. Don't forget, at this point, always a little bit of news comes in. Jack Hendry, remember him? He's been named the best player in the Belgian Pro League this season. So there you are. Just when you think a door has shut on you and your career looks as if it's doomed, you can go somewhere, get regular football and get your confidence back. So well done to Jack. Tam, Alan Campbell, Luton, sniffing about him. Is it inevitable that Motherwell will struggle to hold on to him?
Yeah, it's inevitable, Peter. His contract is up. He's been a bit of a stalwart. A word that you wouldn't normally use with such a young player, but that's very much what he has been the past couple of years. Quite a few years now, it seems. And, he famously, even fans outside Motherwell will be aware of this, he's meant to be the guy that's first in the morning for the training and maybe last to leave the gym at night. So he seems very much the model pro. He is out of contract, and if it is only a matter of dealing with his wages, then of course coming from a club like Motherwell, that is hardly going to frighten off suitors, particularly south of the border. So yeah, I think he's going to go, and I'm sure the Motherwell fans would wish him all the best and hope that we can somehow kind of replace him, because he will be a big loss, a total 110%, man. And it's always great to have somebody like that at your club.
Yeah, absolutely. Roughie, there's a fair bit of discussion going on. Hearts fans don't really want the players to pick up the trophy. They're angry about what happened last year. I'm not going to mention what happened last year because somebody accused me of whinging about what happened to Hearts and yourselves last year. So I'm not going to bother mentioning it, Roughie. But I still think they should pick up the trophy. They've put in the effort, well worthy of lifting it and get back to the Premier League as soon as they can.
Yeah, I think that decision's coming from sort of the people in the club, but I think what you're doing the players a disservice, because there's not many of these Hearts players will lift a league cup again, so to deprive them of that opportunity, they might never be at a club that's going to win a championship. So to have your photo lifting that cup, will be in your house forever. And I don't think they should deprive the players from it. I think there's a lot of young players as well, would love to lift a cup. So I can see where the club's coming from, but I think they've got to think of the players in this one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can I just say, Peter, can I just say, I totally agree with Roughie there, 100%, because there are parallels here with what we were talking about with the European Super League. We're saying that how it wasn't Jurgen Klopp's decision, it wasn't the players' decision, and that's very, very much the same with Hearts here. Roughie's right, there'll be players in that team. We know they stumbled over the line, but it's still those players who won the league for Hearts. There will be players there who have never lifted aloft a trophy in their careers, and they might not do so again. Everything that happened last year involving the governing bodies and involving the folk running the respective clubs, it had absolutely nothing to do with the players. So let them get in there and lift the trophy.
Yeah, absolutely.
I never told you this, Peter, but we're actually getting the trophy next week, so we can lift it as well. Just share it amongst the two. It's a done thing.
There's no surprise on that. Of course, and you've all swapped strips with the Hearts players anyway, and nobody will really be able to tell who's a Hearts player and who's a Thistle player these days. I've saved the best to last, lads, because if you talk about skullduggery that's going on at one end of football, there's a bit of skullduggery going on in Scottish football as well. And it comes from our old friends at Brecon, because they've written to the SPFL board claiming it would be fundamentally unfair to hold playoffs between Club 42 and the winner of Highland and Lower League playoff games based on the fact that the games played by Brora and Kelty. They propose league reconstruction with no relegation, expanding League 2 to 12 clubs. Well, I don't know about you, but I'll give you my opinion first. I think what a brass neck Brecon City have got, Roughie, with this whole situation. And if you talk about skullduggery, suddenly the man who's on the board offers to stand down and then fire out this line. I'm talking about the Brecon City chairman, Ken Ferguson, firing out this line here. You couldn't put a Bunsen burner to his neck on this. Get a playoff. Get Brecon out of the division this year. Give the Lowland League or the Highland League team the chance for a playoff. I cannot believe he's getting away with this.
Yeah, well, before I get to Brecon, the SPFL board have got the cheek to allow him to throw that out there because they agree with what he's coming away with. You can tell by the words in that document that's been sent out there that they actually are looking at their rules as well and partly are agreeing. They're just throwing it out there, testing the water. But as far as Brecon concerned, forget about this year. Look at last year. Go on what happened last year. Kelty won their league. Brora won their league. Brecon were bottom of the league. Just let's reverse a year and say, right, this is what's happening. It's incredible that, and there's a fact somebody's thrown out there that Brora have only played 3 games this year. And I've got more points than what Brecon have got who have played the whole season. That shows you how bad. That shows you how bad they are. That shows you how bad they are.
No, but do you know what the funny thing is, Roughie?
It's ridiculous.
it's the hypocrisy. I mean, honestly, there is hypocrisy. I mean, while we're all bleating on about, the values, the fans, the connection with clubs, managers, players, the even UEFA have got a brass neck. The way they're actually portraying this whole thing about values and connection with teams and fans and the chance to take part in a league. They've pandered to them. And if they pander to Brecon here, Tam, it's a story that fans will look and say, what the hell is going on here?
Yeah, I think Ken was actually hoping for a wild card into the European Super League. And that wouldn't be any more ridiculous than the stuff he's coming out with now. Needless to say, Peter, you don't need to go scurrying for the newspapers to check the league tables to see exactly where Brecon City are. They're isolated at the bottom of that division. The one thing I would say in his favour, right, let's not be bad about this and horrible and twisted. Let's try to keep a smile on our face. At least he hasn't gone for the kind of null and void approach. He is saying expand the league to 12, which presumably means would bring in Kelty and Brora and get both of them in to the senior leagues. And who knows, Peter, maybe Kelty and Brora, I can't see why not. Maybe they would bite your hand off for that up and get the two of them in. Brecon haven't been any great shakes, but if they did go to a proper playoff system in the Pyramid, there is still every chance that Brecon could be in that league on merit, and Brora and Kelty would be back in their respective leagues. It's not a foregone conclusion. So I think they would bite the hand off you. But yeah, for everything that happened last year, they were already denied a crack at getting into the senior leagues. And only, and certainly in this morning's press, Neil Doncaster was quoted on the European Super League and talking about the principle of a pyramid system. Well, sadly, we let a couple of clubs down in that respect this time last year. Can it happen again?
Yeah, absolutely. Tam, you're right. I mean, this is a bunch of two-faced people who can't actually grasp what's happening yesterday with a European Super League announcement, Darren, and this one here, which is let's protect ourselves, let's protect and save our own skin. I mean, this beggars belief.
Yeah, Peter, most of the discussion's been about greedy owners. Now, you've got guys who have put good money into Kelty and Brora, and they've been let down once, big time last year. There's no way they can let them down again this time. There's got to be a stance. The league have got to stand up and say, yes, there's going to be a playoff. And as Tam says, if they can survive, well done. You've survived. But I can't see them surviving, because I think the only thing that they've got a chance is that the other two teams have hardly played. Kelty have not had a game, and Brora have had a couple of games. So that's probably in their advantage. But I mean, I feel sorry for the two owners and the two clubs, the managers and the players, that they're not getting a chance of this, because as Roughie says about Hearts, some of the Hearts players maybe not want to lift the trophy because it might be their only one. This might be some of the Kelty and Brothers players' last chance of actually playing in the professional league.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, I know they've only played a few games. I think Kelty have played something like 13 games, Roughie. But I'd fancy Kelty or Brora to take Brecon.
So very noticeable. It was very noticeable when the Lowland League decided not to play anymore. How many of these senior clubs snapped up the Lowland players? The likes of East Fife, and I think we've taken a couple, and somebody else has taken a couple. So the Lowland League players are guys who maybe have been there and done it, but they're still worth a shout. So I think Brecon haven't showed them. The only thing, I just noticed this is a wee minor thing. The only thing I feel sorry for at Brecon is I didn't know our wee pal Jerry McCabe was there. So that's my wee bit of doubt there, because I like wee Jerry.
Yeah, we love Jerry. He's a fantastic guy, but we can't have any kind of favouritism. I have to say to you, Roughie. No. So I'll have to phone Jerry and say, "Look, KB will slaughter you. You're going down." And Jimmy Duff, who's on YouTube, has come up with the best bit of advice to sort this whole mess out, Tam. He says the only way to sort it out is, why don't we get Dundee to vote on it? And I think that would clear everything up, Tam.
Dear. Aye. Sorry, I'm still chuckling there at the last bit. I didn't realise KB was at breaking either until I did look at the league table.
He's playing.
But he's a good pal of mine as well. I'll tell you what a player he was, Peter. What a player he was. See, just with a wee bit of luck or a wee bit of a break when he was back there at Hamilton Accies and Clydebank, KB could have gone absolutely right to the top. There's no doubt about that. But yeah, it'll be interesting how it all pans out. See, I mean, the theme today, Peter, before we leave the show, all seems to be about greed and money, etc. Can I point out to you as well that, again, because of the influence of television, the Scottish Cup quarter-finals, which are on this weekend, the first one of the quarter-finals, which used to once upon a time all take place at 3 o'clock on a Saturday, the first one isn't on until tea time on Saturday. And then you've got 2 on Sunday and 1 on Monday. You know, I mean, the traditionalists, the purists out there will be, they'll be having a fit over that. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, there is some people might not. I know you mentioned, Tam, that some people watch 1, 2 and 3 games. There is actually a saturation point, Roughie. I mean, I know it's our job and we have to watch games, and Darren has to go to a lot of games because of the scouting network that he's doing a professional job. Tam will look at them because he's going to go on air, and obviously for myself, I like to go to games to see a picture of it. But there is a saturation point in the telly, Roughie, where there are games where I think, I'm not going to watch that. That's ripping the back end out of it. In fact, I have a look sometimes at my lovely wife, and she doesn't even need to say it. She just gives me a look as if to say, nah, that's ripping the back end out of it, isn't it?
I think it's been really even more noticeable this year with no fans in the stadium. There's no atmosphere, and we've said it all along, fans make a bad game a wee bit better, and that's not been the case this year.
Yeah, absolutely. Darren, I'll leave you with this story, which is, of course, something that you will remember only too well. When my nephew and I were living in Edinburgh, we had, obviously, girlfriends in the flat we were living in, which you know very well. And they then said to us that we couldn't watch piddly games. We weren't allowed to watch piddly games, which really turned the screw on us, to which I looked at my nephew and telepathically, I said to him telepathically, these two are for the off. This is not a piddly game. This is Leyton Orient against Barnsley, and it has implications to get into League One. And you know what happened, Dan? They were quickly for the off. When you're 19 and 20, there are no piddly games, Dan.
Tam.
It's probably the same, but...
Oh, no, that sums it up, Tam. Birds in the flat, the telly's on.
Roughie, you couldn't have put it better.
Yeah, end it on that.
Yeah, I'm going to end it on that. Thanks to Tam, thanks to Darren, thanks to Roughie, and from myself, Peter Martin. Thanks for watching.
Expect the best used